everybody. Um, I kind of had a devastating thing happen to me over this last week, um, and that is the celebration of life for Stein Crancer went by, and I didn't attend. And the reason was I put the date down wrong in my phone. I put it down wrong in my schedule, and so I was playing Thursday night, and everything was fine. I'd actually told Angela Corbin, who played with me on Thursday night in Grand Rapids, I said, next week, Thursday, I have to get done playing, and then I'm going to go to this celebration of life for my friend in Whitehall. And that was my intention. And then I got home, and I started to see, people's Facebook posts and stuff about the celebration of life, and I realized I'd missed it. And I guess as self-indulgent as it seems, I just wanted to talk a little bit about Stein Crancer and kind of what he meant to me, and a little bit of my take on what he was like. I know he has a lot of friends. He touched a lot of people. A lot of people, made music with him and were really close to him. And but for me, there was something special about him that just wasn't like anybody else I'd ever met. And I met him in, I don't know what year it was. I guess I could do the math because I think I was about 20, maybe 21. And my dad needed a guitar player for a gig. And I actually think it might have been Dave Burrell who wasn't playing or had left the band or whatever. But anyhow, my dad gave me this opportunity to go play with him because I was playing, and I played in a rock band. I was playing in Sweat and Bullets at the time, and my dad said, you can come out and play, and I said, well, great. I was really excited about it, and I think we were playing at like maybe the Fruitport Eagles or something like that, and so I got there, and of course you have to remember I had long hair, and I had this huge half-stack amplifier, the whole thing, and so I got there. I had ripped up jeans, and I dressed the way I thought you dressed for the gig. And I remember Stein saying to Jimmy Hunter, I think Jimmy Hunter was playing too, maybe. Or maybe he might have even said it to Scott Babcock. Now that I think about it, it was probably Scott who was playing drums at the time. But he said right in front of me, he goes, Jesus, Cowboy Bob's bringing his fucking kids now? And that was me. And he didn't say it, to avoid me hearing it. So we set up and we started playing, and at some point in this night, he must have gotten, bored because he took some song and he started playing it like reggae. He was doing kind of whatever it was, so I followed him. I kind of found a part and did the same thing, and he looked over at me and he smiled, and that he would years later go, well, that's when I knew, you were okay, and or you were, and he would never say I was cool. He didn't believe that, but something like I knew you were okay. And so jump forward, their band Token, I think they were called, like Dave Burrell and Tim Lohman, John Wackernagel and Stein. Dave had left and they needed a guitar player, and Stein called me, and of course I was blown away by that, and I was excited, and I went over to Stein's house to practice there on Obel. And honestly, people who've been there know, but I had never seen anything like it. It was like a museum. There was all sorts of memorabilia and records and videos and strange collectibles that spanned everything from pop culture to professional wrestling to certainly music. And so we practiced, and that was with Tim Lohman and John Wackernagel, and those guys left, and it was just Stein and I. And I remember, they played kind of the same stuff. It was like Creed's Clearwater Revival and all that, but there was also all the rockabilly stuff that Stein was really into. So we played Matchbox and Red Hot and all those songs, and I'd really practiced hard. I really wanted to do well because I looked up to all those guys, and they were all older than me. And so when John and Lomi left, it was just Stein and I started looking around and really taking everything in. And I remember he had on his TV set, propped up, was a 45 record. And it was the MC5. And honest to God, the sleeve was a photo of, what was a man and a woman having sex, and a guy standing behind them, kind of giving the thumbs up. It looked like it was in a hotel room somewhere where maybe the MC5 were, I don't know, on tour or playing or whatever. But I remember just going, my God, this is in his living room, and looking around at everything. And then Stein started playing records, and that was. He's playing all the records, and we were talking about, I'm a Beatle fan, obviously he loved the Beatles, so he had to turn me on to what all those early Beatle covers, who originally had done them, and we listened to those, and I mean, I spent a long time there that night, a long time, and then, we were playing a gig, we had a gig somewhere in Muskegon, and they needed a name for this band. And I think the guys, and I'm sure Dave or Fred or Lomi or Wack will tell you what the gig was, but I want to say it was some sort of convention of people who were fans of the Andy Griffith Show. And they had to call themselves Carl Benson's Wildcats for that night. So when we needed a name for this gig, Stein used that. Well, the tickets got printed up, and they were Charlie Benson's Crazy Cats. And because I stood in the middle, I didn't sing. I sang one song in the Wildcats when I first started. It was The Week of Living Dangerously by Steve Earle. And it's not a big hit, and it did not go over well, and I did not sing it particularly well. But the guys let me do it. But I stood in the middle, so people were coming up to me to make requests and calling me Charlie. They thought I was Charlie Bensen, and the guys were the Crazy Cats. So that's kind of how that started. And then we just, we kept the Carl Benson's name, and then people would call me Carl. And that's when, I came up with Tupelo. I love the band Uncle Tupelo, and so I'm like, I'll be Tupelo Benson. And I think I gave Stein the name Chili from Chili Palmer from a movie. I think it was Get Shorty. And then, of course, it kind of went from there. Todd Long got Pretty Boy Benson because, he liked glam rock like I did. And, of course, I won't tell you how Buick Benson got his name. And I'll let him tell that story. And then, of course, Tim Lohman became Cousin Lomi. And so we'd play these gigs, and people wholeheartedly believed that we were family. And to this day, even up here in Ludington, there's still people who ask me how my brother's doing, and that's Stein Crancer. And, he wasn't my brother, but he certainly had that place in my heart. So throughout the years, we'd spend time together, and a lot of it would be educational time, where Stein would just, turn me on to music he liked, and I did the same. I was really into the alt country stuff, and we shared that, and we liked the Derailers and the Mavericks and Radney Foster and Dwight Yoakam and BR549, and of course Stein turned me on to NRBQ, and I turned him on to Wilco or whatever it might have been. But it was a lot of that educational stuff every time I was with him, and the thing was, I had never met anybody who was, really cool. I met people who pretended to be cool, but I'd never met anyone who was really cool. And that's what he was. He was comfortable with himself. And mind you, by the time I met him, I wasn't getting a leather jacket and the cool afro, Stein. I got the, I remember he wore, these shirts that had a pocket here because he needed his cigarettes in there, and his white shoes and jeans. And you would think that, people at the gig would look at him and just go, oh, that's some average dude. But no one ever did, because his personality was, he was anything but average. He was anything but, run-of-the-mill guy, and people gravitated toward him, and people to this day, and hopefully, maybe some of those people will watch this and comment, so his friends and family know the impact he had on people, especially up here in Ludington, because we played here a lot. People to this day will still ask me how Chili Bensen's doing, or what's up with Chili Bensen, or do you ever see Chili Bensen? Will you guys play again? And over the years I've had so many offers to play with the Wildcats, and that wasn't because of me. It was because of him, obviously. It was because he was so talented and he was so unique, and he never pandered. We never pandered. Yeah, we played songs we liked. And if I said, hey, I want to play The Week of Living Dangerously, he went, okay. He never went, oh no, people won't dance to that. It wasn't a concern. He was making music because he loved it, and everyone else be damned. And that was truly how he was. As a guitar player, he played through a Silverface twin reverb. When I met him, he was playing his Telecaster, which was, I know, at the celebration, I think it was up on a stand. He played that with a coily cord before everyone bought a coily cord, bought one of these type of things, right? Before that was cool, that's what he had, and it wound back to this twin. At that time, he didn't use any pedals. He just used his volume knob, If he wanted clean, it was halfway, and then rolled it on full on. His tone was really bright, and it would just cut your head off, and it could be really loud, and yet it was his sound. It was completely his sound. And then later he got a couple, pedals and stuff, but it was just his uniqueness that came through, and so over the years, after the Wildcats stopped, we were still in contact, and I think he knew how much I loved him, and I certainly knew how much he loved me, and he wasn't easy on me. Anyone who knows him, he could smell weakness, and that's me, that's how I'm wired. And I'm wired with that I want everyone to like me business, and let's please everyone, and he wasn't like that. So when he was in the right mood, he could really find my weakness and pick and at it, and he knew it. I don't know that it was ever malicious, but he could be that way, and that was okay. And as a golfer, so he took me golfing. One time we went golfing, and I had just kind of started. And so we were at Old Channel, and there was a hole where you had to, I think, hit over this gully or whatever it was. And I managed to do that, but my ball got dirty somehow. And so I got up on the green, and I grabbed my ball and wiped it off and put it back down. And he said, that's a stroke. And I kind of laughed. And he said, that's a stroke. And I go, well, I don't know what you mean. He goes, well, you can't just pick your ball up and play. There's a pick clean in place or something like that. There was some rule. And he docked me that stroke. And that, he loved that game. He loved he had a respect for it. He liked that, the tradition, I guess, and that, I don't want to say pageantry, but, he liked that. And so that was kind of him in a nutshell. He docked me that stroke. And toward the end of his life, we talked, and, he was well aware of what I had faced and was trying to kind of overcome. And he was open and cool about that, and we talked about that, and about my recovery and what it was like for me and how it kind of changed my life. And so there was that, and when he got sick, Dave Burrell and Steve Salter, a lot of guys said, hey, you got to go visit Crancer, And I didn't, and I'm not sure why I didn't, other than I was just afraid, I think. I was afraid of a lot of things, but there was something about it I was just too fearful to do. And I certainly hope he knows that, that was me. That was just my fear, and I wish I'd stopped to see him. And then to find out I'd missed a celebration of life. Just that someone there might take my absence as, like that I didn't care or something. That really bothered me. I know no one would think that. I sent messages to our friends, and people were like, well, we kept expecting you to walk in. And I didn't even know